In today's video, I'm going to be reviewing Vegetable Police's video on German new medicine. I have tried tons of diets to fix my Crohn's and colitis, and Casey has done more diets than I have. But about 2 years ago, I discovered German new medicine, and I went from about 155, 160 pounds, and now I'm 210 pounds, and I eat whatever I want. And it was all linked to a conflict in my life, which originated actually in early childhood. So let's watch Casey's video. I'm really excited that he's finally like latched on to German new medicine because you can only do the same diet over and over again, so many times before you lose your hair or lose your mind or pull your own hair out. So yeah, it's
to watching her videos, and I was like, damn, that makes sense. Just for those who don't know, German new medicine, there's 5 laws. I will descript them to you. The first law states that a biological shock will result in a lesion in the brain and a simultaneous tissue response in the body. When something emotional happens to you, it's a sudden shock, like, oh my god, a girl you liked in high school said you're ugly, and then she laughed with her friends and walked away. And you're like, and all of a sudden your brain's growing a tumor, and
so let me just correct, the brain is growing a tumor. So when we experience the conflict shock, there's activity on the brain level, the psyche level, and then the organ that the psyche chooses to put into overdrive in order to help us survive. So there's no tumor in the brain. There's actually no such thing as brain tumors. Brain tumors are actually confused for a healing relay. So these Hammer, we call them Hammer focuses, they are lesions. They appear to be injuries, but they're really mysterious. Like, we don't know what they are. We can only see them on CT scans. I've had my brain CT scan read, and everywhere where there's supposed to be an impact, there is. And so, my best guess is that the nervous system sends this electrical pulse. We communicate with the body. The brain communicates with the body through electricity, and maybe we just get this blast and it hits the brain and it creates that lesion, that it creates that injury. And we do believe it's an injury because when we resolve the conflict, it does heal. It does become inflamed and display like all the typical healing symptoms of recovering tissue.
2 weeks later you have diarrhea. You have no idea why. It's connected to the girl in high school. That's the first law. A thing in your brain grows, and then it's connected to a specific organ. All these different, the girl's laughing is one type of disease. The girl's saying like, oh, I like your shoes, just joking, that's a different type of embarrassment, and a different tumor will grow in your kidneys instead of the liver. You know what I mean? You following?
So we never know how somebody, or even ourselves, we can't predict how, like, oh, that girl made fun of me. Like, we can't predict what organ that's going to land on. There's so much the subconscious mind is like taking into consideration. For one person, it could put the epidermis special biological program on. For the other person, it puts the intestines or the colon or the small intestine. For other people, it puts the heart or the skin. It just depends on how our perception.
The second law states that there's 2 possible phases for every shock-initiated disease, and there's a shock phase and a healing phase. And the healing phase will only occur if the initiated shock is resolved. So the girls laugh at you. You're shocked. You're not sick yet. It's only until you realize, hey, I'm okay. Who are those girls? These chatty girls. They don't bother me. I know who I am. I trust that I'm good enough. And then you get sick, and you get the rash on your forehead.
The 2 phases, what they're supposed to be called, is there's the conflict shock, which activates the conflict active phase. And then when the conflict gets resolved, a lot of us in English call it the healing phase. And I think it makes sense to call it that, but it's more accurate and helps the person better understand like what the body is doing is when we call it post-conflict resolution phase, because the conflict's been resolved. So somebody who has colitis, the conflict shock happens, the colon develops extra cells to help digest and absorb this hard to digest thing in this person's life that's important to their survival. The conflict gets resolved. The body doesn't need these high maintenance cells anymore, and it starts to get rid of them. That's when we experience the symptoms, when we're starting to get rid of those extra gut cells. But there's other tissues that have conflict active symptoms, such as like something like anal fissures. That's a conflict active symptom. And on the flip side, that will turn into hemorrhoids. We also have probably one of the more famous ones is psoriasis, where someone's skin is flaky or someone hair loss is a conflict active symptom on the epidermis. Dandruff is a conflict active symptom on the epidermis. So most people experience symptoms after the conflict resolution, but there's quite a few conflict active symptoms that we can deal with. In Casey's, I could, just by knowing Casey's backstory, I know he has two conflict active symptoms. I believe he's constipated, and then the hair loss is also a conflict active symptom.
Forehead or something, you're like, damn, what's wrong with me? It's healing. It's a healing rash. You grow a bigger forehead to impress the girls. The third biological law states that the level of the brain which is affected by the shock corresponds with how the tissue will react. This, I don't know, she gets all into evolution. We know we weren't fish. I was never a fish flopping in the water and decided, you know what? I like grass now, and I'm going to walk. That's not how we were always human. God said so. Evolution versus God. God will step on your evolutionists with angry toes. I've seen him do it.
So the third law is an easy law to overlook. It's like, that's not important. Why do I need to know that? And I felt that way too when I first learned it. But a lot of people confuse embryology with evolution. They do kind of go hand in hand and, share a lot of like similar ideas. But, even like modern science, like there's three different germ layers where tissues develop. And now the oldest, so I don't know if you guys if this is big enough, but like the simplest life forms only have a brainstem. And that's where like all of our like main organs that kind of go up that are centered around the intestines originate. And then we have the mesoderm. And that's the tissue that kind of like close them all and keeps them safe. And then we have the ectoderm, which is controlled from this part of the brain. It helps us understand how an organ is going to behave. Like if I know a tissue comes from the endoderm, we know that it's cell proliferation in the conflict active phase. So thyroid, I wasn't fast enough to get that thing. We're going to create extra thyroid cell glands to help create more thyroxine so that we can, get this thing. Oh, you can't digest this? Okay, we're going to give you extra stomach cells so that you can digest this hard to digest thing. And then in the conflict resolution, when the conflict is resolved, we start to get rid of those extra cells. When you start to get to the new mesoderm, in the ectoderm, the pattern shifts to cell loss in the conflict active phase and then cell restoration in the healing phase. So, modern medicine loves to overcomplicate like all these different diseases, which we now see as significant biological special programs, putting organs into overdrive to help us overcome a stressful situation in our life. That's what they really are. And it's just a process of cell plus and cell minus. Or if it's on the newer tissues, cell minus and then cell plus. And if you want to, if you are like against evolution and you want to kind of, honor what the Bible has to say, we came from the sea, even from a biblical perspective. If you look at the mineral composition of our blood, it's the exact same as seawater. It's just diluted a little bit. The salinity of seawater is around 3, and the salinity of blood is around 1%. And I'm rounding a little bit there. But we took the sea with us. And if you look into the Bible, I'm no biblical scholar, but, he first made the sea and then the sea creatures. And then he made the land animals and whatnot. His design evolved over those 7 days. And then he made man on the last day. And
This is just where I feel like the guy who came up with this system got lost in an evolutionary path, and he's describing things as like the old brain or ancient, million years old, even though the Earth's only 6,000 years old if it was a foot. Old brain versus new brain. So I don't know, just throw out that third law. All right, last two laws, and then we'll talk. Fourth law states that microbial organisms are an inherent part of the healing and repair phase. So we all get these candida, overgrowth, and like it's helping you. It's almost done once you resolve the mind. It's a good thing. Viruses, bacteria, all that fantastic stuff. And then doctors will be like, oh no, you have an infection. Let's give you antibiotics, which just hold the healing still. They're like, nope, you never complete the healing phase if you go through antibiotic treatments, apparently. And the last law states that...
So this is kind of a hard law for some people to grasp, which actually Casey seems to accept, which is surprising. If you dig far enough down terrain theory, they have seen so-called bad bacteria and fungi come up out of our own cells. And again, I'm going back to evolution, but the first life forms on Earth were bacteria and fungi, and we evolved like we can't even modern science will fess up to this. Like, we cannot exist without bacteria and fungi. They originate out of our own cells. They serve a purpose. They develop in the conflict active phase, but they don't become active. And then when the conflict gets resolved, they either aid with the cell removal or the cell restoration. German new medicine isn't like super anti-modern medicine. There are a lot of great things about modern medicine when we use it correctly. Antibiotics can save somebody's life. And taking antibiotics doesn't mean you're just going to like stop the healing phase. It just isn't going to, I guess you could say, run as efficiently. Like, okay, let's say we have 100 gut cells to remove. They start getting removed, which is very painful. Let's say I have 50 gut cells left, and by that point I'm like in agony and I go to the hospital and I take antibiotics. Now there just isn't as many bacteria and fungi ripping away at the flesh, but the body is still doing that process. So of that remaining 50 gut cells, let's say, I take the antibiotics, the bacteria die, and my body by itself can only remove about half of them. And so now I have 25% of the 25 gut cells, extra gut cells left, and they just kind of become encapsulated and they stay there and they don't do anything. So it doesn't stop the healing phase. It just, all the work doesn't get done, but it still gets by. And there are times where the person's going through too much pain and suffering from too many symptoms, and it's a good idea to take antibiotics for a short amount of time. And also avoiding probiotics when you're going through an intense healing phase. Avoid probiotics when you're going through an intense healing phase.
What we have come to fear as disease is actually a special biological program that nature intended to strengthen the individual and the species entirely. Once it's gone through the entire process of shock, resolution, and repair, and return to normal, they're stronger after. I have to agree with that, because we've all said that, like, oh, I got sick, I had colitis. It strengthened me. I'm now this, like, completely different person because I went through the trials and tribulations. So it's like most diseases, if you can overcome them, you get stronger after. So it's true. Totally true. So as you've been witnessing over...
So I probably have the most qualms with the fifth biological law, because I do not, on almost any level, believe that these significant biological special programs are intelligent, because a lot of the issues are imaginary, and a lot of the times, like, for example, like let's say somebody's like trying to make money and that's like causing their colitis, and the colitis symptoms like get so bad the person like can't work. Like I see that so many times, and they're supposed to enhance our survival. And a lot of the times, even, when we aren't being poisoned by modern medicine, where it's the biological program that kills the person, then, the conflict, I see that happen, that happens. We see it every day. And, so I wish there was kind of like a safety cutoff or something like that on some of these things, or, maybe we can fix that when we have the Tesla chip in our head or something like that. But these significant biological special programs make more sense in microbial life, like in really tiny organisms. But I just see it cause just so much anti-survival It just inhibits survival in so many ways when it comes to humans and even normal animals like dogs and cats and stuff.
Over the past 10 years here on YouTube, I've just been focused almost entirely on my physical body because I had a digestive illness, and the doctor said, oh, your digestion, that has nothing to do with diet, eat whatever you want. They might have been right. They were hiding the truth in plain sight, hoping I would never find it. I was like, you're crazy, it's a digestive illness. Of course it has to do with food. It has more to do with your reaction, your thoughts towards food. Like me, I'm allergic to dairy, I think. I think it's just my thoughts thinking that makes me sick when I eat dairy. It's not the dairy itself. I'm not going to try it again. I don't need to test this theory because it hurts. I bleed when I eat it. But my mind is...
Casey has colitis, and like our society is just so broken right now when it comes to logic. It's like, how could milk, which almost doesn't make it past the stomach as far as getting digested and absorbed, like how is that going to affect the colon, which doesn't even digest food, it just absorbs water. So the way that we need to start to look at this is like, how is milk related to the conflict? Maybe your girlfriend back in high school threw milk in your face. Maybe the bully dumped milk over your head in high school and then beat you up. Maybe when the conflict got resolved, you celebrated with an ice cream, and the first time you saw blood in the toilet, you blamed dairy. And I know multiple times that Vegetable Police's brain has linked dairy to being dangerous. Like I don't even watch, I don't watch like all of his videos in it, but I've already heard him say it, like, dairy gives me blood. So if on a subconscious level we believe a food is not safe and it enters us, like, what do you think the body's going to do? It's going to like, oh my God, we got to get this out of us. We got to get this diarrhea. Our subconscious mind runs off of beliefs, and if we believe a food is bad, then it's going to try to eject it either through vomiting it or through diarrhea.
Is the one making me bleed in a healing fashion. But I bought like 4 books on it. This one is like the textbook where you look up things, certain diseases, like, my God, rosacea. I have some rosacea, but listen to this one. Rosacea is caused by you feeling like you're not a part of your family. You're separate, and you're bringing blood to your face to show them, hey, I'm part of the family. Look, I'm your blood. And that's what you do, because you feel like a lost child of the night. Whereas if you can resolve that, boom. Whereas like in my dietary world, you would think, oh, that's acids coming to toxins. Here's another example. Shoulder pain can be caused by a fight with a loved one. And so listen to this. I have a little dispute here the other day. My girlfriend loves to meditate. It's all peaceful and quiet before work. She's preparing to enter the world of insanity, and she just needs that little bit of quiet time. And I just got a rebounder. I'm jumping. I'm making all kinds of noise. I'm running this distiller, which you can probably hear in the background. And it's just like driving her crazy. I'm like, oh my God, I can't do this. Can you not exercise? I'm like, I have to exercise. It's morning. It sets me up. I need this. I need to start moving the lymph. And so like we had a little dispute. A couple days later, like we resolved it the next day, and it was all good. And then I got the shoulder pain. I was just doing regular push-ups, like loser push-ups, both hands. And I was like, ow, what the hell was that?
I can really tell that like kind of Casey is starting to get this when he's like already giving us examples like this. And yeah, you almost see it at least on a weekly basis, if not daily basis. Especially if someone's sick, you see it almost on a daily basis. You see how your symptoms are connected. So the one way to really start seeing for a lot of us, like if you just like suddenly get diarrhea out of nowhere, it's like, okay, what PTSD trigger did I just encounter?
I resolved it. Our fight ended up in my back, in the shoulder blade. Proven by Scientology. That's what happened. Now, I'm not just jumping in. Often when I learn...
So that's a funny reference you made. So Scientology is actually very much in line with German New Medicine. Scientology doesn't really understand like what our organs are doing, but the whole like becoming clear in Scientology is all about like unraveling all these conflicts we've had throughout our life. And, they eventually expect you to get to the conflicts that happened to you at birth or while you were in the womb. And, a lot of people think that, like, babies can't have conflict shocks and stuff like that. But, like, imagine you're being born and you have the umbilical cord wrapped around your neck. And then if you're a boy, you come out and then they chop off your private parts. Or you get separate, you're supposed to be glued to your mother, but then they put you in a nursery. There's all sorts of things that can happen. And depending on the baby's personality, that's going to determine whether it's a conflict shock or not and puts an organ into overdrive.
Something new like this, I'll just dive all the way in. It's like, yep, every disease is caused by nothing could ever happen. Let's all eat deep fried hamburgers now. It's fine. I think it's a culmination of the mind and the body, and you still eat healthy and you still do stuff, but this has given me something new to focus on. Like, go rework all these traumas, revisit things that have happened to me in the past, because that is likely something happened and caused this digestive upset. So it's like, I can't just focus on diet, because if you don't focus on the mind, you might never do it. But you've heard the stories of people eating healthy and everything turns around. They likely felt better, more energized, and then started thinking of stuff and forgiving the past and working the mental route as well. I gotta be honest with you, I feel embarrassed.
Yeah, it's almost 50-50. Some people are just good at resolving their conflicts, and it just naturally they resolve their conflicts. But, like the people I've worked with and who have the hardest time getting better, they just, everything is a threat to their survival. If someone goes on a diet and then they get better, it's because they just by coincidence was able to resolve the conflict and keep it resolved and not be haunted by it at the same time. And as far as diet goes, the diet that I recommend people to follow is the Weston A. Price diet, which is like an ancestral diet. That diet has the most nutrients in it. But I would and a lot of people from that community, they demonize other foods, which causes them a ton, like just not blaming foods anymore will, for most people, especially in the holistic community, will cut their symptoms in half by like 50%. True story. And so I would much rather have somebody eating fast food all day long than stressing about other foods. It's definitely better to eat a clean diet, full of fat-soluble vitamins and protein. There's a few types of diseases in the body or types of injury. You could become poisoned, which if you become poisoned, you're either just going to die straight up or you're going to feel sick for a few days and then you're going to get better. And maybe that poison damaged an organ and you'll suffer from some symptoms because of that. That's an injury. Or it could be a physical injury. You break your leg and it heals, but it still just isn't the same just because it went through a physical injury. Then you have malnutrition. Like, think about the stories of the sailors who were like falling apart because they didn't have any vitamin C. And then like after a week of having vitamin C in their diet, they're back to normal just about. And then the majority of us, suffering in the holistic community, those are, think about it from a German new medicine perspective. These are, I have an organ going in and out of overdrive for decades because I haven't like fully come to peace with this conflict on a conscious and subconscious level. Like a lot of us aren't consciously aware of what this conflict is, yet it governs our whole life. That's kind of the tricky thing for people to see.
Just sitting here, like I'm still kind of sick. Like I haven't, obviously, look at my forehead right now. It's like erupted in this rash. Apparently I've already healed the trauma. That's where the rash comes in, so it's a good rash. But like I'm sitting here, it's been 10 years on YouTube, more than 21 years of like trying to figure out the perfect diet to heal me, and I'm still kind of struggling. Like I've had moments of perfect health. I feel like, okay, I've had great energy, decent digestion, clear skin, but all at like different times, and I've never been able to just put it all together. And so I'm embarrassed because it's my mind that is the weak aspect. I'm a shattered boy in here, and I'm scared of life.
I wouldn't say you were weak mentally. I mean, because usually the people who are just oblivious to these threats, they benefit the most from kind of like this German new medicine perspective because they're not worried about everything in their environment. Yeah, I wouldn't blame yourself. It's just kind of like the cards we were dealt. I mean, yeah, that's a tough conversation.
And everything. And I have to face these fears to get over it all for once and for all. It's hard to deal with. And I'm sharing my journey on TV here. And it's like, yeah.
Yeah, it was very tough for me to change my content because all of my old content was all crazy about diet and stuff like this. And it was causing like a lot of confusion with my new customers. So, I ended up deleting a lot of them. And, I should have never did that. I should have left them up there. That really hurt my channel quite a bit. But, yeah.
All right, there it is. I've been focused all on diet. I'm drinking turpentine. I'm doing all kinds of weird stuff. I just fasted for 5.5 days. Dry,
fun.
By the way.
Dry fasting, not fun.
I think it's time old vegetable police takes a look inside. end in there.
Even if you're reacting to a food and we think even if it's like a substance inside the food, the brain still has a say in it. It comes into the intestines. Somehow we sense it through touch or something like that. The signal gets sent up to the brain. The brain makes a decision. The signal gets sent back down to the intestines. And, the brain makes a calculation on what to do, and then that order gets sent to the intestines on whether to digest that food or to vomit it out or to diarrhea it out.
And said, what happened? Who hurt you? You don't heal me, fruit. I heal myself. I just think you're healthy, and therefore my mind creates a nice reaction when I eat you. It's not the fruit that's healing me. Do you ever notice how people go to fast food restaurants?
Food doesn't heal. Food can never heal. Food fuels the body, and that's the way you look at it, as fuel. Food is fuel. It can't heal. It can only fuel the healing process, and the healing process can only happen if the person has really truly resolved their conflict.
They have perfect skin. I notice it every day, and I see them I eat one thing and my face erupts, and I'm like, what the hell?
I say this in every video. It's it just puts a big smile on my face to hear someone like Vegetable Police say this.
My mind is weaker than the fast food freak. That's the embarrassing part. He's healthier than me in the mind, and he gets to eat McDonald's. I get to eat nothing but unripe peaches from Alaska. They're from Alaska. Fucking Alaska. Just learning about this stuff has already made a switch in my mind. I get stuck sometimes where I'm just sitting here not sure what to do, not sure the direction to take in life. More music. My videos, are they a waste of time? Am I helping anybody? What am I doing? Cameras all suck. The camera channel's my main business. It's going to go out of business one day. What do I do? I think my plan, read these books, get familiar with the mind, get a journal, and start writing down every traumatic experience I've ever had.
So if you're going to learn German new medicine, probably the best place to go is learninggnm.com. And then there's also 2 PDFs available of the chart. So German new medicine was translated from German into English, and it's kind of a mess. 2 or 3 people have translated it, and they're fighting that, oh, you didn't translate this part good enough and well enough. So it's only been translated for 10 years. So there's they're saying different things in different different languages. So I've learned from the woman who does learninggnm.com, and then my girlfriend, she speaks Russian, so she's consuming a lot of the Russian materials. And a lot of Russians speak German, so a lot of Russians went to the source. Us Americans can't speak anything.
And diving deep into it, what happened? What happened that day? I remember getting constipated for the first time in grade 8. Something must have happened. You don't just get constipated one day. It's not, oh, he ate more French fries that day.
Constipation, it can be a few different things, but usually that's conflict active for, what is something important to my survival, and I can't digest it, and I'm holding on to it, so I'm sucking all the value out of it. And
it was a shock. Something, I was coming of age, I wasn't ready for it. Something was wrong there. A young boy, not hit puberty yet, and all the boys are bigger, and girls are they're kissing each other, and I was new to the school, I wasn't ready for it. So that made me constipated. I can't force myself to kiss girls when I don't even have armpit hair.
That I like what he's trying to do here, but the way we what am I trying to suck all the value out of? If somebody's fasting, maybe food. The digestive system's oh my God, he fasted for 5 days. Maybe I should hang on to this food because who knows when he's going to eat again. Or, maybe, I see some people it's they're trying to hold on to their partner. Oh my God, they're talking to other girls. I'm going to hold on to them for dear life and not let them go. And that's what the intestinal muscles are doing. They're holding on to this important thing to their survival.
So I pooed again once, and we resolved it. We haven't resolved it, obviously. So I'm now open to the possibility that my mind is the one creating all these problems, because I'm eating almost nothing but fruit, and things are hard to push through me. And I'm there's no way. Fruitarians, constipation's never on the list of symptoms of a fruitarian diet. It's always oh man, I'm pooing all day long.
So I'm no chiropractor, but this is kind of the first thing I like to say to people who are constipated, who are stuck in the holistic mindset, where they're it's this deficiency, this magnesium deficiency, that's why I can't go to the bathroom. all of his other muscles are working just fine. Like, I think he could do, I don't know if he can still do one arm pull ups and stuff like that. Why is it only the intestinal muscles? Why is that the only muscle in the body that decided not to work? When you think about it that way, it's insane. It's insanity to think that food is causing this, unless like someone eats cement or something like that. So it's the muscles choosing to suck the value out of something, whereas and hold on to it. Whereas diarrhea is like wanting to eject something dangerous, to eject waste.
It's fantastic. So it's like I'm not able to push forward in life in some area. I feel stuck, and that's the truth in many areas.
Yeah, that's one translated theme for constipation, but I don't like that. I don't like that translation. Every time I say it to somebody, they kind of look at me like, I don't know what you're talking about. But usually when I tell someone it's like something you're trying to suck all the value out of, then they're like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
On the YouTube channel, with everything, with this house, like I want to move to St. Catharines and get a house.
So to give you one story about constipation, so one girl I was talking to, she was constipated because her boyfriend was like, or at least she believed that her boyfriend was in the process of like trying to leave her. One day so she was always constipated because she wanted to suck all the value out of her boyfriend, hold on to her boyfriend. And one day she found out that he did something like super scummy, and she's like, well, this guy's a jerk. I don't want to be with him anymore. I want to get rid of him. And like the instant she found that out about him, that constipation turned into diarrhea, and she didn't want him anymore. So it was like diarrhea from then on out.
Or rent a bigger apartment with more space. We want that. We're growing up this space. We're filling it up. But like I can't. My mom is sick here. She's not doing well. I can't just leave her. So like I feel stuck in so many areas. It's resembling in my colon, who's like, okay, we're not going to move either. You ain't moving. There's connections, my friend. So let me know your thoughts about German new medicine. Do you have experience with?
I like that he started. I used to say stuff like this, but he's starting to see the connection, which puts a big smile on my face. So that's cool. He's starting to put it together. It's a very different way of thinking about things.
With it, has it helped you? What connections have you made? Traumas that caused this illness? One frickin' laugh from a girl causes a zit forever. Where did this mole come from? I had a mole young time. What happened there? Something for sure.
That's funny.
Find it. I'll write it down. So, how you doing?
All right, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll Vegetable Police. I sent you an email. Yeah, email me back, and all right, guys. I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.